Does anyone call you Dr. Love?
Not Dr. Love.
Maybe his wife does, but I think that's probably another show as well,
Thank
right?
you, Trevor, for the great intro music here with Dr. J. I'm with Jason Stockwell with Remax Results.
Don Eldridge, Remax Results.
This is the Stockwell Eldridge Show. If you're just tuning in, we have Stephanie Havel with Wells Fargo here, Chelsea Sonderland with Team Stockwell at Remax Results, and we have Dr. J. We've been talking, which I thought honestly was going to be a little more not interesting, frankly, because not that chiropractors aren't interesting, but I just thought it was going to be like, okay, yes, chiropractor. We have these stereotypes of what we think of realtors, the same, right? Everybody's like, oh, you're all the same, right? I mean, and and lenders and loan officers and banks,
Right.
oh, they're all the same. Wells Fargo's the same as
big
XYZ.
banks, yep.
Yeah.
And we're not. And we have to convince people. Dawn and I spend every day, and probably you, Stephanie, convincing people, hey, there is a difference. It's about the people we have on our staff and the things that we do individually that can make a difference in your sale or in your purchase. And the same stereotype I have of chiropractors is they're all alternative to conventional, but they're all generally the same. And Dr. J just came in today, and I'm sitting here listening very attentively, which I usually don't do, but because I'm intrigued and I'm impressed with wow, this is actually different. This is not just saying someone's different. This isn't just saying, hey, yeah, I'm different. Fundamentally different from the approach and from the technique and the style and the neurology and everything about it. So I'm very, very happy that we had Dr. J on, and thanks, Dawn, for inviting him on.
Well, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, and we're going to circle back with what the question that we had said is when you talked about the Italian soccer team and how you got them from 26 to 4% on that injury, because I know I'd like to have a lot less injuries. So
Basically what I did was I would test each player every day, and by testing I mean I would go through and test their muscles. And if we found a weakness, we could actually make a correction and get that out of there and get the muscle functioning normally before they actually got an injury. So
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you? When you said test the muscles, and maybe you talked about this before, what do you mean by test the muscle? Like, am I squeezing your bicep to see if it's there, or is it hooked up to a machine?
Well, Stephanie would like to test the Italian soccer team's muscles.
That's basically what I'm getting at. Boy, Jason, how do I test the soccer teams?
Yeah,
their muscles.
Basically it's putting
Thanks, Jason.
That would be testing muscle tone.
Yeah, there we go.
So basically, it's putting the body in a certain position. So like if I do like this, for example, hold my arm straight out, and if I push down on it, I'm looking at the reaction of how the muscle reacts to hold the arm in that position, right?
How quickly and how strong. Okay.
So if I push down and it feels like a brick wall to me, I know that muscle's turning on at the exact moment that I'm pushing down. Now, if I push down and it gives maybe an inch or 2 or 3 inches before it turns on, then I know there's that really slight delay there. And it's the delay that I'm looking for. I'm not looking at the strength at all. So Dawn can even attest this. When I test her, it's just boom, real quick, just a little push and just feel her reaction. And we just go through, there's like 12 different muscles in the lower body that I test, and like 15 in the upper body that we test, and we test the neck and the ankles and the back and the abs, and we just go through and test a whole bunch of things. And if we find something that weakens, then we know that muscle's not absorbing force, and that will lead to an injury, or it already caused an injury, and it's also preventing you from being able to heal. So
that's a great point. You can actually can strengthen it or catch it before, because it's not responding quick enough. So something will happen at some point where there'll be a force that it doesn't respond to quickly enough, and then it will have an injury. Or over time, little forces will probably add up and then cause an injury, where it's a ligament or it's a bone or it's a back or a disc, like you said, all those things that happen all the time.
That's right. And what you do if you have a problem is you rest, which is a way of getting force out of the area, right? So you feel better, or you compensate. Well, then what happens? That force goes somewhere else, maybe to your hip instead of your knee, and now all of a sudden you got a hip problem. So you're like, oh, the problem moved. But it's the same problem. It's just you're trying to do things to get that force out of that injured area.
Huh.
And so what are some of the things? And so then once so just let's go back to example of that arm, and maybe in Dawn's case, you felt it wasn't resisting as right. And so do you then treat that area with chiropractic, or do you do physical therapy, or how do you?
So we use chiropractic. Whenever I do an adjustment, that's going to stimulate joint receptors. And joint receptors, as we said before, fire very powerfully to the brain. And your elbow joint receptors are going to fire to a specific part of the brain. And your shoulder joint receptors fire to a different specific part of the brain. So I actually have to figure out what adjustments do I have to do to fire to the area that's not allowing these signals to pass down to the muscle fast enough. So we do different tests. Like a lot of times we'll have people turn their head one way or the other way, or and we retest the muscle. And if we can see something that changes that latency period, then I know that's going to be a beneficial therapy. So it might be an adjustment on your low back, which actually activates part of your brain and allows your brain to turn on that muscle in your shoulder better.
So I have a question. My mom and I both go to the chiropractor every week. I go to West End Chiropractic in St. Louis Park, by the way. Whoop, whoop. What up, West End? And I have a relatively pain-free body. I like to think that my chiropractic care is very preventative and keeping me healthy. And then my mom, just no matter what, she's, and she's a little bit older, obviously. She's my mom. So she's older than me. Does age factor into that, or are some people just more prone to having those aches and pains or those injuries, even though they are getting some of that care? Or does any of that factor in?
Actually, that is a factor. I would say generally, the younger people are, the more they're learning new things, which means they're creating new brain cells, which means they're activating more wider areas of their brain, keeping it healthy, keeping it balanced. As we age, we tend to kind of get in our set routines, which means we're firing those same pathways over and over and over, and the ones that we're not using as much kind of start to die away. And that means we're using...
that's happening to me.
Yeah, we're
Right.
using less of our brain.
The brain cells are dying.
And you get in your car and you start driving and you go to work and you don't even realize you drove there because it's such a ingrained pattern in your nervous system that you don't even know what's happening. You get out of the shower, you dry off exactly the same way every single day. You're not using your brain to do those activities anymore. They're just reflexive. Well, if you can change what you're doing, for example, like learning a new thing, like if you move to Italy and learn how to speak Italian, that actually activates new areas of your brain and keeps it healthy and keeps it balanced. So that's kind of the trick to keeping your brain healthy, is to stay learning new things all the time, So I learned how to fly. I became a pilot. I learned how to speak Italian. I learned how to play bass guitar. I play bass in a band now. So I'm always learning new things, and it seems like I'm always changing. Like, well, what's he
Slapping the
doing now?
bass.
But
Right.
that's what you got to do to keep your brain active and keep it healthy and keep forming all these new connections and keep these neurons healthy. And that can be a big factor for people. And then chiropractic, you're getting adjustments, right? And those adjustments are activating your brain. Your chiropractor is thinking about, I got to get this bone back in place.
Right.
Right? Why do you think the bone's out of place in the first place?
Because I did something to move it? I don't
No,
know.
actually, it's because...
I figure it's my fault, right?
Yeah, it's actually because the muscles that support that bone aren't balanced. And they're not balanced because the part of your brain that is controlling those muscles isn't balanced either.
Balanced to do it.
Now, if you have one side that's firing faster and one side that's firing slower, and you do an adjustment on your low back on the right, and then you do an adjustment on the low back on the left, you've activated both areas, but there's still the same imbalance that you started with. So what we do in our practice is we figure out that this area is weaker, one area, and we do specific adjustments to target that, to activate it, to bring this balance to the nervous
So
system.
then that disc shouldn't be moved, or the
The muscles
The
will be
muscle will be
balanced,
balanced,
and it'll
yeah.
support that spine in a center position or in line, basically. So you don't even have to adjust that vertebrae.
I
that's out
feel
of
like
place.
I've actually learned something today, and I think that's helping my neurons in my brain. I really do. I feel like I know a little bit more today after today's show.
Well, and
It's
you
awesome.
said
Yeah.
learning. Can we visit your website to get more information and sharpen our brain and learn something new to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or get tested. That'd be great.
Right.
Yep. And
Well,
everyone knows how to spell Pietola, so I don't have to spell that out.
yeah,
I'm just kidding. Yeah, so it's www.pietila chiropractic.com.
And you're on Facebook
And
as
that
well.
alone will spark your neurons just trying to spell that.
Yeah, there
So,
you go. That's
we'll have that on the Facebook page under Stockwell Eldridge. So go to Facebook, check us out. Like us on Facebook if you want. If you like our show on there, you can see us on YouTube, and you can always call us as well. 651-400-0773. Sincere thanks to Dr. J from
Thank
me,
you.
Jason Stockwell, 3 Max Results.
Don Eldridge, Remax Results.
And Stephanie Havel with Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. And you can check me out on Facebook too, Stephanie Havel.
Yes.
Chelsea with Team Stockwell. See
Love
you
yourself
later.
and love others. Have a great week.